Your presumption is the remedies were exhausted. My presumption is the remedies weren't exhausted at all.
We have an entire system designed to thwart, and I want to say this respectfully, but it's the truth, people like you, to stop people like you who think that you can anoint yourself the reviewers of the voters, of the American people, of what they lawfully did, that you trumped the Supreme Court, no pun intended. People like you are what the Constitution are designed to stop, and it worked, and it did stop you.
Willie, I stand by my original take on Peter Navarro, that he reminds me of Dusty from the Royal Tenenbaums, except I would think Dusty might be more effective working in the White House. He was, of course, the elevator operator who was the fake doctor for Royal when he needed to have his wife think he was dying so he could get back in the house. All that being said, he said the quiet part out loud and has written a book.
It's helpful.
Where he said, this is what we did after 63 federal courts, after the United States Supreme Court, after every federal court in America had said there was no widespread fraud, voting fraud, and that Joe Biden was president of the United States. This is what we did anyway to overthrow the results of, 130, 140 million people who voted.
It's extraordinary to listen to that when you consider reporters and members of Congress have spent months, almost a year now, trying to get to the bottom of what happened, how it happened, why it happened. And then, as you say, Peter Navarro just wrote a book laying it all out, even gave it a name, The Green Bay Sweep. And you go to Royal Tenenbaums, I'll go to Scooby-Doo. You know how at the end of every episode they pull off the mask of the bad guy and he says, I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for those meddling kids. Where the meddling kids, he says, Peter Navarro, are the people who attacked the Capitol. So we would have pulled this off. We would have gotten away with it if the people who caused all the trouble, as he calls it, at the Capitol hadn't done what they did. We could have done this quietly and pulled it off. He also blames not just the rioters and the people who attacked the Capitol, but the former vice president of the United States, saying that Mike Pence was the quarterback in this play they were calling the Green Bay Sweep, and the quarterback failed to do his job, according to Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon. Extraordinary to have somebody write it in a book and go on TV, interview after interview, and just say out loud and describe in very specific terms how he tried and they tried to overturn a presidential election in America.
Well, and just laid out a blueprint, Susan Page, for, I think, future Congresses to look at, study closely, to see why they need to change certain voting laws, why they certainly need to go back to the 19th century Electoral Voting Act that still allows this sort of nonsense to take place.
Yeah. You know, one thing that's so remarkable is the matter-of-fact tone Peter Navarro takes, even when challenged about what he's describing the plan was. It's really shocking. And this, of course, is not just some crazy guy yelling on a street corner. Peter Navarro, there was a time when he definitely had the president of the United States ear. You do see an effort in Congress to try to tighten some of these procedures to prevent it from happening again. But there's a big fight over that because of, while some Republicans support that Electoral Count Act, it doesn't go nearly as far as Democrats want to go when it comes to election reform and protection. Not clear what's going to happen with that. But this is surely one of the most shocking things we have ever seen, is it not? Somebody who had the president here describing the Green Bay Sweep.
Yes.
Yeah, which is, again, a great code for a coup against a democratically elected incoming president and his administration. Yeah, it's breathtaking. It's interesting also, Mika, Peter Navarro, who we will give credit for warning the president early on of all the deaths that could come out of COVID. The president, of course, ignored that memo. But Peter Navarro was blaming the rioters on January the 6th. He should have blamed the president of the United States because, of course, we're learning more and more every day that it was Donald Trump who ignored the advice of Sean Hannity, ignored the advice of Don Jr., ignored the advice of Ivanka Trump, ignored the advice of Laura Ingraham, ignored the advice of Steve. I think that's what
Kev.
That's what Donald Trump called Kevin. Steve McCarthy, ignored the advice of all of his allies who were saying, do what you can to stop this. He wouldn't do it. He kept looking. He loved the images. And so, Navarro, if he has an issue with the riots, he doesn't need to look to Capitol Hill. He needs to look to the other side of Pennsylvania Avenue, because that's why they began, and that's why it took so long for them to come to an end, because Donald Trump refused to call it off. And when they finally forced him to make a video to send to get people to disperse, I think it took him 3 takes before he finally could be forced to tell them to leave the